with us.
Welcome to Heal with Us, where we aim to inspire, strengthen, and empower.
Now let's begin to heal.
Hey y'all, I'm Toya, and I'll be investigating the business of everyday people like you and I. This is Dr. Nikkisha. She'll be checking in on your heart. And that's Tam. She'll be enlightening you with fun facts you didn't even know you needed. She's just nerdy like that. Now that you met us, let's get in your business.
In your business.
All right, so on today's episode, I wanted to talk about forgiveness and kind of like the stages of forgiveness that we feel. It doesn't have to be medical or scientific, but just think about like some of the stages you go through personally. For me, I'll just say my first stage, I already know is like being unforgiving. Like I'm like, nope, so. But what about you? What about you guys?
For sure, probably angry or maybe offended.
For me, it would be hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, how do you kind of like process it? How do you even get to the point of trying to forgive somebody?
Well, for me, it depends on what it is.
Mhm.
What it is that I have to forgive, and talk to myself to see if it's something that's forgivable. Because no matter what anyone says, I believe for me, there are some things that I just can't forgive. I can't. And that's something that I would have to take up with me and God, because you do have to forgive, but there are just some things that just cross the line that you can't get back.
Yeah.
You just can't. So.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
How do you like process it? How do you get to the point where you even want to forgive or can forgive?
I think it's definitely stages and depends on what the offense is. But I think for me, it's the acceptance that you can't change what happened or what the person did or whatever. So for me, that's part of it, and then recognizing that it's only hurting me when I hold on to unforgiveness. So, and I will kind of touch on that in my segment. But so I think some situations do take way longer to get to that point of just releasing the person. And some things may be a lifetime, like you said. Like I'm not going to say I'll never forgive, but healing is a process. So
and
therefore,
maybe that's what I mean. Like not being able to heal, but you forgive, but not being able to heal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think,
and I think like too for me, when maybe I did something that somebody else deems like unforgivable, changes my perspective on like forgiving something, maybe from the past even that I might have thought was the most horrible thing, but now it doesn't seem so bad, like with experience. So what do you do when you can't forgive?
I think that's when you honestly probably need to seek help, because holding on to that is not healthy. So I think when you are in a place where you can't forgive, you need to help somebody. You need to seek somebody to help you process through whatever it is, that is causing that unforgiveness.
Yeah. And I think it's really hard, but sometimes you just need to take the pressure off yourself of even like, okay, what do I do? How do I forgive? What do I like? Just take the pressure off and maybe just put it like on the back burner and don't even think about it for a while,
Mhm.
come back to it, or put yourself in the person's shoes. Like, even if it was the most horrible thing, like, okay, what if I had done this, and what would I do to kind of maybe try to apologize or try to undo, or, you know, whatever it is, to maybe see it from like their point of view, or like maybe even why they did it, or, and then sometimes you just don't care. You're like, it is so bad that you're just like, yeah, that, cross that person off. I'm done, and you know, I'm just moving forward.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think it's one of those things that for yourself, you just have to try to find a way to forgive, even if you don't tell the person. Like, even if you don't want to discuss it with the person, like, okay, so they did this to me. I'm just gonna forgive it, you know, for myself, but I'm moving on, you know. So, but it's difficult because you do go through stages, and there is a point where you're like, never, I'm never gonna forgive you. Like, I curse the day you were born.
Okay, Charlotte.
Yes. Yes. Or it's other times where it's like, oh, that's all you did, like, you know, and you can kind of tell the person, okay, I know, you know, you feel bad that you did this. I appreciate you feeling bad that you did it, but, you know, thank you for the apology or whatever it is, and we can move forward. Just don't ever do it again. So, but yeah. So, but that's all I have with forgiveness. It's definitely a tough subject for me, and I think the closer the person is to you, the harder you deal with it, because it's kind of like you feel obligated to forgive versus somebody that, you know, is not in your circle. It's more like, bye, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but that is definitely a issue that I struggle with daily.
Okay.
Thank y'all for letting me get in your business.
In your
Of
business.
course, anytime. Blessings, everyone. It's Dr. Nikkisha Bell-Griffin. How's your heart? So I'm going to continue this conversation of forgiveness, which is such a powerful topic and such an important topic. And I want to kind of open with a scripture. It's Matthew 6:14-15. When you pray, make sure you forgive the faults of others, so that your Father in heaven will also forgive you. But if you withhold forgiveness from others, your Father withholds forgiveness from you. That's so powerful for us believers. That's powerful, because it's basically saying we're not allowed to withhold forgiveness. So I want to kind of talk about the consequences of unforgiveness and how we can get on the track to forgiveness. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 things that withholding forgiveness from others can do to create a blockage to your healing. 1 is it hinders your relationships. 2, it ruins the blessings and good things within you and around you. And then 3, it stunts your growth. So as far as hindering your relationship, obviously, it's hard to move forward. If you are harboring unforgiveness for a person, it's going to kind of create a wedge between you and that person, and you're not going to really be able to live or love freely, you know, whether it's within yourself or within that relationship. And you're actually holding yourself hostage and holding yourself down by carrying the burden or weight of unforgiveness. Because again, it's something that's you're feeling in your spirit and your body. So the other person might just go on about their business, but if you're still carrying that, it's impacting you and hindering you. As far as ruining the blessings or good things within you and around you, think about, I know y'all heard the quote from Buddha, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Well, that's the same thing with unforgiveness. It's like unforgiveness is basically like you feeling like, you know, you have the right to, you know, withhold forgiveness is going to make that other person suffer when, like I just said, they may move on with their life or whatever and care less, or maybe they do care and they, you know, they're you know, remorseful for what they did, but you're still keeping them prisoner, but you're really keeping yourself prisoner in that unforgiveness. So it's really serving no purpose. Unforgiveness can also taint everything it touches. And that's why I said it can ruin the good within you and around you, because think about it. if you're harboring unforgiveness, it kind of just like makes everything not look as pure and beautiful as it really
Dark.
is. It looks dark because you're filtering everything through that offense that you experience, whether you realize it or not, because you haven't let it go, you haven't processed. So we don't want to do that to ourselves. And it can even, impact, unforgiveness can impact you, like I said, physically and mentally, and it really can make you sick. So we talk about, expecting the other person to die or suffer. No, it's making you sick and ill. And it's really one of the greatest causes of like anxiety and depression and all of those things. And some people even believe that it's linked to unforgiveness and bitterness and resentment. It's linked to cancer. So just to put that out there, I don't know if that's scientifically proven, but that is a belief. And then as far as studying your growth, when you're giving too much energy to the hurt and resentment that you're not able to focus on positive, productive thoughts, of course, your emotional, spiritual, and mental health and development you're stunning it, because you're spending so much time being consumed with things that are not feeding and fueling your soul. So it can really stunt your ability to just grow in emotional intelligence and maturity and spiritually, because you have that blockage that's causing a hindrance to, you becoming your best self and being healed. So we definitely want to not withhold forgiveness from, as best as possible from others. And it's a process. So we're going to talk about that. But before I move on, did y'all want to comment on anything I just said?
I agree with the, not forgiving and holding on to it, that it creates darkness. And, while you're over here harboring in this resentment and not sleeping at night, that person's going on about their lovely life. They're sleeping and not even thinking twice about it. So that really resonated with me.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, because you do want sometimes the bad juju to float through the waves of the universe to zap the person and all that good stuff. But
yeah. And I'll get to that too, as far as just, because I heard you say, like, or one, I can't remember which one you were saying, like, not as far as not talking to that individual, even letting them know that you forgive them. We'll address that as well. But there is healing power in forgiveness. There really is. And there's another scripture I wanted to read, Song of Songs 2:15. It says, "You must catch the troubling foxes, those sly little foxes that hinder our relationship, for they raid our budding vineyard of love to ruin what I planted within you. Will you catch them and remove them for me? We will do it together." That one, that's so powerful to me. And as a believer, of course, in the Song of Songs, Solomon is talking about, his beautiful bride to be. But as believers, we think of that as our Father, our God in heaven. He's planted so many wonderful, amazing things within us. But if we're not careful to protect and guard our hearts, unforgiveness is that sly fox that can come in and just seep right in. And if you are not taking care of it, it's going to get worse and worse, bigger and bigger. So I'm going to talk about ways we can catch unforgiveness. Okay. So the first thing I think we must do is be sensitive to our thoughts and feelings. Forgiving someone is not about denying your own feelings and what you have experienced. Pay attention to what you aren't saying just as much as what you are saying, and then observe how you are reacting towards a person or situation. This may reveal underlying judgments or sentiments that you are not addressing. So sometimes it's not just what we're saying, it's what we're not saying that reveals the hurt that we're harboring towards someone or something that happened. So really just being honest about that and paying attention to it. Number 2, once you are aware of these thoughts and feelings connected to unforgiveness, catch them quickly. This is the hard part. So be honest with yourself and acknowledge your thoughts and feelings with the expressed goal of choosing mercy over the deception of anger, rage, pity, hurt, and disappointment. It is natural to feel these things. Like you said, you want the juju or whatever to just go on after that person. But if we can't linger on those emotions too long, we may feel justified or right in doing so, because let's keep it honest, some really horrible things happen to really good people, you know. But if we do not make the choice to quickly forgive, the end result is a whirlwind of, like I said, bitterness, anxiety, depression, stress, and lost time. You can't get back. So you're wallowing in this stuff and you're losing precious time in your life where you can be focused on what is good and what is lovely, you know, all that. So 3, it's not about forgetting. This one to me was powerful, but how you remember. How you remember.
I've said that to people that I have to forgive and let them know I've forgiven you, but I'll never forget.
Yes, and that's it. And I thank you for saying that, because a lot of people think forgiving automatically means, oh, you forget. No, that's unrealistic. And that's not going to happen. Like, we remember every trauma in our body, and not just trauma, but all the good things too. Your body stores that in our cells, and you know, your mind, like your subconscious mind. So that's really unrealistic for people to say forget. I can understand forgetting where you're just saying, don't ruminate over it. But that's not the same thing as forgetting. So,
and Maya Angelou said it best.
What's that?
Her famous quote.
Which one?
You'll never forget what a person says to you, but you always remember how they make you feel.
Yes, I love that quote. That's one of my favorites. Yes, that's right. So when thinking about the offense, remove all judgment by considering your own human frailties. And Toya, you kind of said that. You think about, like, when you've done something to hurt someone, it kind of makes you a little more, humble. We all fall short. And remember, we talked about this in the one episode, hurt people hurt people. So keep that in your forefront of your mind. This does not make a person's offense acceptable. However, it releases you from holding that individual hostage or up to your standards. And it also keeps you from trying to be their judge. Like, you deserve this or you deserve that. At the end of the day, we don't have any control over how the consequences for their action is going to play out. That's between God and the law, if the law is necessary, but we have to just do our part, which is just to forgive. Remembering an offense in light of mercy grants you the vantage point of seeing the brokenness in others instead of demonizing them. And it also allows you to desire their healing just as much as your own, which is powerful, because how hard is it to want to actually see somebody who's done something really hurtful be healed? That's powerful. Yeah. And just to piggyback on that, there's actually a website, an organization, I think it's an organization called the Forgiveness Project. Y'all may want to look it up. But it talks about people who went through some hard stuff, whether sexual assault, children being murdered, things that are not easy to swallow, and how they actually went through a process of forgiveness, and they're at the place where they've forgiven their offender. So that may be something that, you guys can check out, you ladies can check out, because I think it's very inspiring to hear stories like that, because you think of, like, oh my God, if something like that happened to me, I would never, but then to hear people that actually went through the unthinkable and they have come out on the other side loving, or, I'm gonna say, when I say loving, I mean like the brotherly love, loving the offender, or just maybe not even going that far, but just forgiving them, that's powerful. And it shows that it can be done. 4, give yourself time and permission to let go. Okay, so forgiveness does not equate to reconciliation. That does not mean you need to get with the person who's offended you, go back to a relationship with them or whatever. No, if you feel like it's unhealthy or whatever, you may cut ties. Cutting ties doesn't mean you're withholding forgiveness. It means you're just creating boundaries and doing what you need to do for yourself. And it's not a quick fix. It will take time to feel like you want to forgive, or that you are over an offense. Therefore, you must remember that forgiveness is not just about how you feel. It's about making a choice to forgive. It's simply saying, I forgive this person, and then just moving forward. Like we said, not lingering in those feelings, but moving forward. I forgive them. Try to think about something else. And whenever those feelings arise, just keep telling yourself, I forgive them, until your feelings and all of that line up. Then 5, I believe we're on 5. Yes. Practice, practice, practice. Okay. Healing is a process of practice. I'm going to say that again for all the people in the back. Healing is a process of practice. In order to experience the healing power of forgiveness, you must practice forgiveness. So start with something small, like somebody cut you off and you want to cuss them out because they didn't cut you off and you almost made you run into. That almost happened to me yesterday. The lane was running out, and the person just decided at that given moment they wanted to go around me. I had no road. So it was this close to hitting the wall. My children were in the car with me. Forgiveness, practice forgiveness. Jesus, help them and help me. So start with small things, and then work your way up to the bigger issues. Okay, that's just realistic. When you build that practice and you start nipping it in the bud and catching that fox, it'll start becoming second nature. So I will say all that to say, if I get to my other page of notes, that forgiveness is not for the other person involved. It really is for you. Forgiveness fosters the freedom to live more fully and even promotes greater self-esteem. While choosing to forgive may not come easy, it is worth it in the end. You become a more resilient, empathetic, and compassionate person, which Toya, you kind of mentioned that. When you allow yourself to catch unforgiveness and to hold on to peace and joy that comes from letting go of those painful thoughts and feelings of resentment and those memories that keep trying to resurface. Remember, the sly fox only seeks to steal from you. That's what unforgiveness does. It steals your joy, it steals your peace, it steals your sanity,
Steals your light.
steals your light. Yeah. And like a dark cell, unforgiveness is only meant to imprison you. No more withholding forgiveness. And as my sisters and I always say, now let's begin to heal. And remember to guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Peace.
Hello there. Come on over to the corner. This is a good corner. This is a nice, clean corner. We're going to get nice and cozy and snuggly and all things over here. All things over here. So we're talking about forgiveness today. I want to come from the standpoint of the person that's trying to get the forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about apologies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And there's 2 types of apologies, but the one I want to talk about is conditional if apologies. But I too want to start my segment with a verse, and I'm coming from Proverbs 17:9. And it states, "Love prospers when a fault is given, but dwelling on it separates close friends." May we keep that word of God to the closeness of our hearts, and we shall continue. So I want to talk about the conditional if apologies. Let me give you a definition in case you're not quite following me yet, but I'm going to get you there, get you up to speed. Definition: use of conditional language to suggest the apologies isn't necessary. And Doc, I know you these definitions, come on, but
I love your definitions.
I have a peanut gallery that I kind of have to answer to. So yes. I'm trying to be 2 steps ahead of the gallery. Okay,
I got you.
So let me give you some examples of if apologies. So say I, which I would never do, have done something to offend you and I'm trying to apologize, but I'm using the if conditional method. If you felt hurt, I apologize. Mm-hmm. If I upset you, I apologize. Mm-hmm. It was just a joke. You're being overly sensitive about it. I have no recollection of saying that. You must not be remembering it correctly. I'm sorry you feel that way, but you need to understand I had no choice. Mm. So those examples were if conditional apologies. If I offended you, I'm sorry. No, you knew that you offended that person. So how you, that's a half, sorry to say something else, a halfway apology. Right. Like You knew you did it. That's why you put that inference in there. If I offended you, I'm sorry. You know you did. So these examples of conditional apology suggest that the responsibility for feeling hurt lies with the recipient and not with the person who caused the hurt. So it's like they're trying to ricochet it back to you as to say, how dare you feel hurt? Like, come on. It was just something simple. Why are you hurting? Like, you can't tell me how to feel or receive something that you and I both know was offensive and hurting.
Amen.
So I also want to give some reasons why people may often give conditional apologies. You know, I can't, pinpoint and say why, but here are some reasonings, I think. They may not believe that what they did was wrong. They may totally believe in their hearts of hearts that what they did was not wrong or offensive. And I think you snicker because maybe you've experienced this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And don't you just love when it's, well, you did such and such, and whatever, and then they throw something back that you did. I just love that.
Exactly.
I'm
That
like,
is the worst.
Oh, so we're just gonna like skirt around this by pointing out my mistakes or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Another reason. No, you're fine. They may just want to keep the peace. Have you ever had someone just to, you're dealing with a difficult person that, maybe they always got to have the last word, or maybe they're not a good listener, and you do it just to keep the peace when you're just putting a Band-Aid over it and you're not really taking care of the issue. Another reason, they may feel embarrassed. They may want to avoid the feelings, which, sometimes that can be the issue. But I feel like if you're dealing with someone that you have a pure relationship with, maybe you need to evaluate something. If you feel like you're embarrassed to go to them with something, like then there's some loophole in that relationship. They may feel shame about their actions, but feel unable to or unwilling to confront their shame. There are those who fail to apologize due to the lack of empathy or have low self-esteem or personality disorder. So sometimes it's not them being rude and just ornery. It's just the fact that maybe there's some chemical imbalance that causes it to happen, but it still doesn't make it okay. I mean, I still think the recipient still should state and let them know, hey, that was not kosher. That wasn't cool. You hurt me.
Yeah. That's like, I don't mean to interrupt, but that's like some people that have thick skin that think other people have thick skin, so they don't even see that they're hurting the other person. They just feel like, well, I mean,
Get over it.
that wouldn't,
Right.
why is that offending you? It doesn't offend me.
That was a very good example. Very good example. And the issue of using these if apologies is putting yourself before another person's pain, which is so self-centered and just it's not good. It's not good to do something like that. But I do have a fun fact. I have a fun fact. You ready? So the early meaning of the word apologies, here I am, yes, another definition, Doc. It didn't mean sorry. It didn't mean sorry. It didn't mean sorry at all. No. It meant in defense of. So my good old friend, William Shakespeare, he is credited with the standard meaning of sorry as we know apology to be today. So that's your fun fact.
Well, I have a fun fact. Nice to have a fun fact.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to put it in a way that everyone can relate. We as Christians don't say, I apologize. You say, I repent. Because an apology could mean, oh, I'm sorry from right now. But then you go right back to doing the same thing. Repenting is when you literally change the way you're thinking or behaving. So I think if you think of it, no matter if you're Christian or not, if you think of it in that aspect, then hopefully you'll see some great changes and, healing in your relationships, because you're literally changing the way you are responding or acting or what you're doing that's hurting another person. Or just, So just wanted to put that out there.
That's good.
That's going to be IBLE. Okay.
That's the book for me. I stand alone on the word of God, the Bible. Okay, all right. So, moving on. So, an authentic apology starts with first, you have to listen. You really have to listen. And you need to hear what happened from the other person's point of view and how it affected them. So, if that person is coming to you, explaining to you exactly what it was that you did to offend them, be a good listener before you come out and say, well, if you took it that way, like, no, listen. Because like you said a few minutes ago, if that person has a jovial way about them and they, going about their jovial way, they might not find that offensive. But then it's up to them to listen, that when you come to them and tell them that, hey, you offended me, that's where you need to listen before you start spewing out if conditional apologies. A good apology may evoke the need for forgiveness. If you come with a very good apology, that person may start that process of forgiving. And you also need to understand that you need to give that person their space and their time to even decide how they want to move now. Because there's hurt there. There's hurt there. And I want to give an example of a good apology. Get my acting chops on. I made a mistake, and I take full responsibility for the impact it has had on you. I'm sorry.
I love that apology.
So isn't that good? Wasn't that good? Okay, I gotta know.
Because how can you not forgive the person when they
people might
when
need
they
to feel
say
this?
that?
You might need to tell them.
I know, right?
I gotta know. I can imagine how my words may have hurt you, and I'm truly sorry for that pain I caused. And sing. I don't even know what you did, but I forgive you. So those are some examples of good apologies. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's others out there, but those were some that I kind of, off the top of the dome, off the top. You had to go too far because I ain't that tall, but off the top.
Those were good. Those were really good.
So going from, did you want to add?
No, I just love that.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, going from an apology to forgiving, and I want to give some kind of key points to that. So if you accept an apology and you want to forgive, here are some things that may help to ensure that the steps towards forgiveness is kind of easy for you. So first one is balance acceptance with vigilance. So, when you receive that apology and your natural response is to accept it and reset the relationship. However, be vigilant in observing that person's behavior and watch their change demonstrate the commitment to grow.
Repentance.
Yes. Yes. So be vigilant. Like, the person said they're going to do this, you're going to do that, but you need to see them change. You need to see growth and them making that steps towards doing what they say they're going to do. My next point is analyze sincerity and changed behavior. So if you see they changed, just make notes of all of this. Acknowledge that not all apologies are created equal. Some are temporary fixes because maybe before they've crossed you several times and you forgave them. And it's like in the back of their mind, oh yeah, let me just give her this little Band-Aid. It ain't a Johnson & Johnson, but she gonna get a Dollar Tree Band-Aid because she gonna forgive me anyway. So that's where you need to analyze their sincerity.
The Dollar Tree Band-Aid.
Yeah, Dollar Tree Band-Aid. Yeah, because it's a temporary
That's a real
fix.
cheap apology.
Yes, ma'am. It creates an illusion that you have on a real Band-Aid, but you don't get it wet. That's all I gotta say.
Right.
Put your hand under water and get it wet. Remember, change is a constant effort to rectify mistakes, implement corrective action, and cultivate personal growth. Next one, healthy boundaries. You have to instill that once that person has crossed that line, that line you draw on the cross that line, cross that line. Once they come over that line, you have to create boundaries and let them know, hey, not to this extent, but I've put you in a box.
And you have to know that you don't have the reach or the freedom that you had with me once before, because I need to get over this. I need to figure out how I'm going to pivot. So create healthy boundaries. My last one, trust your instincts. Pay attention to your gut feelings. Pay attention. And if your gut is telling me, for women, that's one of the great gifts that God has blessed us with is intuition. And if your gut is telling you that, this person ain't gonna change, either you need to let that, you still need to forgive regardless. You still need to forgive, but you need to decide, what are you gonna do with that relationship? Are you gonna stick around to see if they've changed? So trust your instincts. And I want to close my segment with just this. Remember, if you're struggling with forgiveness, this does not mean you are a failure for forgiving. Forgiveness takes time, patience, and determination. There are those who feel that love for another person who harmed you is not possible. But when you forgive, eventually you'll find a way to open your heart. If you shed the bitterness and put love in its place, you become free to forgive.
Amen. That's all the nerd has. Well, thank you, nerd.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Heal With Us 3.
And remember, healing is a process, so take it one day at a time.
We would love to hear from each and every one of you. We are available across all social media platforms, all the ones, all of them. You can also email us. If you're not comfortable with the social media, you can email us at healwithus3@gmail.com. We appreciate all the support thus far.
Heal with us.
In your business.